Welcome to another episode of the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. We are back. I'm Jim Root. I'm hosting this week, joined as usual by Kai McEwen and Matt Cox. This week we are talking Big East, home of the reigning national champion. Very excited to get into that. Also, some very passionate fan bases in this conference that we will surely piss off and stir the pot with. That's the goal. Kai McEwen, how are you doing on this fine Thursday afternoon?
Jim, I'm doing great. I'm fresh off a basketball game last night. Fun thing, my teammate said his buddy recognized me in a picture with him. That's fun. Always love organic. What's it called, Matthew? Recognition from people.
Yeah.
Recognition from people outside of just us three. Very cool. Very cool. We won the game. Not very challenging game. Matthew's brother played very well. Pick up basketball. Very fun. Rec basketball.
Yeah, it used to be. That thing of the past. In the before times, it was fun. In the current day and age, Jim, I hope that your recovery is going well and you can return to the hardwood. I've hung up my jersey permanently in that regard. And I'm
not sure I'll ever play.
Peace with that.
I don't think I'll ever play at the competitive level that Mr. McEwen is at right now. The rec ball that he's playing, really good league, I believe he guests in at times. I've played some 3-on-3 pickup, and that may be all I ever need again. Just break a sweat playing hoops. That's all I need. Also, you may notice, listeners, my voice a little raspy, a little hoarse. Was screaming my butt off at the Packer game this Monday Night Football. Unfortunately, there was a horrible game to watch, horrible result from a Packer fan perspective, but had a heck of a weekend in Las Vegas. Matt, little inside story here. I guess maybe this could be personal corner, but we'll throw it in now. We post game, we got back to Caesars and had the best run of blackjack I've ever experienced.
Wow.
All four of us on the table together, friendly dealer, deep into the night, like absolute great time. So
that's the best.
There's something about the Al, friend of the podcast, Al K. Ali, as we call him,
who has frequently demanded to guest on the pod, but we have not.
Yeah, we'll get him on. He'll barrage his way into this thing eventually, but just a good luck charm of epic proportions, because my best personal gambling run was also with Al at my side. That was on the roulette table though, Jim, not the blackjack. The Ali Kumaye.
Oh yeah. That was
we ran seven straight reds. Just kept running it back. That was great.
Yeah. So
thanks,
good to have that. That was kind of the lift of the spirits after the downer that was the football game. But hey, let's get into the pod here, guys. First, we shout out Mr. Paskoff, who was at that blackjack table. Joey P gambling with us out in Vegas. Another fellow Packer fan. So enjoyed having him out there. He is the creator of our tunes. Thank you, Joe, for the intro music. Follow us on Twitter at 3MW_CBB. Same handle on Instagram that every so often gets a little bit of love. I certainly didn't remember to do anything while in Vegas. I'm sure Kai's not pleased with me. But
yeah, come on, guys, step up.
It wasn't a college basketball themed trip. That's my only excuse. That's all I got. Subscribe to the pod on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your pods. Please leave us reviews on Apple Podcasts. We love that. Kai, those are the ones that get the shine here on the show. We love a 5-star, and we've got several here. Excited to talk through.
Yeah, 3 new reviews, guys. Thank you. Evan Schwartz, Evan's 5th review. He says, love you guys. Excited for the season. In the most biased but unbiased way possible, I think Nate Oates will beat that alternating year trend of great/bad defense with a good but not great defense this season. He said he would redo the Alabama defense versus Gonzaga defense board bet that we had last season. I think it was Matt and I had that last season. Maybe Jim was in on that as well.
Winner for Matthew. Winner.
This year.
That was a fence for me. I said fence road.
Yeah, that's fine. This year, Evan says they'll have major depth, Alabama. Fresh legs for Oates. Sears underrated. Griffin, huge leap defensively. Pringle, fine at the rim. He also says the freshman Stevenson has been getting a lot of love from Oates. Jim, thoughts on Alabama? I guess the point of this whole thing is that they're going to be better on defense than we gave them credit for in the SEC.
Yeah, well, and honestly, first, Evan, welcome to the 5-Timers Club on the reviews. Love to hear that. That's fantastic. Aim for double digits now. Keep dreaming big. But regarding the defense, yeah, I think we pointed out the pattern. We didn't necessarily say they were going to be horrific again. We just think I think it leans more towards bad than I don't think there's a chance they're elite again. So I guess kind of agreeing with him. Going to be more on the fence.
Yeah, convincing
more in the
case.
middle of those two. Yeah,
convincing case they'll be good enough. But no, I'm pretty confident they will not be elite this year. But could they be good enough? Yeah, for sure.
Reading through this, Kai, I had like an epiphany for how I view a lot of
Focus.
this fan optimism in the off season. This is not specifically about Evan or really any fan, just kind of when people throw their fan optimism at us in the off season, like here is the most rosy outcome of every player on my team. It's like when a vegan starts yelling at you about veganism, Kai. I just like, I don't care that you have that, that you do that. That is okay. But when you start putting it on me, I bristle and I'm like, oh, well, now I want you to do bad. And that's,
I'll say certain people do it differently. I think Evans was very fair in the review. I think his was fine, but there are certain fan bases that have responded to us a lot that I would say, yes, make me bristle as well, Jim.
But the only part of his that maybe got me that way is the freshman. Like Nate Oates said his freshmen are good. Wow, interesting. I'm surprised that he would have said that.
The worst is when someone's talking about their 8th or 9th guy that's not necessarily a freshman that they think is going to be awesome. And, hey, I like it. I do it with Mizzou. Fan optimism. Keep it in the sport.
Yeah, I love it. Just I'm not going to always respond like, oh, you're right. That's
fair enough.
That's my response.
That's fair. Next review, Matt Moderno. This is the #1 college basketball podcast. Wow, that's the review. I love it.
That's a fact.
He says he loves the show, constantly impressed by depth of knowledge. Hooray. Curious which team you think is the most underrated in the Big Ten and why is it Maryland? I'll go to Matthew. I'll tell you what, Maryland is rising up my rankings. I don't think they're underrated, though. I've seen a lot of people kind of feel the same way.
I know. I feel like they went. I was going to answer Maryland like 3 months ago, but now at this point, the cat seems out of the bag and everyone's in on the hype train. I'm going Michigan. I think Michigan's going to be a good team this year. I think people just forgot that there's some good players in this roster.
I agree with you.
I think Michigan's going to be pretty good. That's my answer.
Agree with you.
We had a very large gap on our Michigan ratings where I was the low man by like 20 spots behind Matt and Kai. So I'm not quite as on board with Michigan. But yeah, to your guys' point, Maryland was picked 3rd in the unofficial preseason poll that The Athletic does because there's not an official media poll for the Big Ten. But then the Almanac had them 4th. I have them tied 3rd with Illinois. So I kind of think unless you really believe like, hey, this is a national title contender, yeah, they're pretty highly rated. Kai, my answer is Penn State. I think they're going to be a lot better than the like dregs 13th that a lot of people are putting on them. I'm getting minor Iowa State, K-State vibes where maybe it looks like an Island of Misfit Toys, but actually this team could be quite competent.
And Mike Rhodes is a good coach, we think.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I would probably, I also support your answer, Jim.
Thanks.
Final review, Chris Knebb, phenomenal content. Started listening to you guys after a recent appearance on Titus's show.
Nice.
That's great. I love hearing that.
That's awesome. So you know what? I think Titus would love hearing that too. So
exactly. People listen to his show, our show.
Good. We elevate Mark. We do.
Right.
We do.
He says the content is everything I ever wanted and more. I love it. Super insightful, yada, yada. Question. What team should I watch that can fill me with the same joy that Fletcher McGee's 2019 Wofford team provided me with, that shot 1 million threes per game, actually made enough to warrant the kind of volume that you would love in a mid-major or any team for that matter? Jim, I see your response here. My first answer is FAU as well. That team brings anybody joy.
Yeah, if you don't mind like crowding onto an already bustling bandwagon, then get on that one because FAU's a blast. And I know they're going up a league. A little more off the radar, I thought Colorado State is going to be an electric offense this year. And you can watch Wake Forest followed by the nightcap of Colorado State since they'll be out west. And then Truman, major answer at Colgate. They've had a monster offense for years and years. They adapt every year. They're dominant in their league. So Matt, those are my 3 proposals for Chris here.
Yeah, FAU is the right answer by a mile. And I'm just, people who listen to this podcast are going to sick of us heaping praise on FAU. Like this is going to be a tough year for you if you're over it or you're selling the stock of the Owls. Just it's going to be a long stretch of your podcast fandom. I apologize in advance. However, I will add Indiana State as kind of an off the radar, awesome offensive team that I think is just a joy to watch and could be just really good again, despite losing lots of key players. So Josh Schertz, great dude.
Yep. Another really good coach. Before he came up to D1, his teams were like 60-4 the last 2 years. He was down at the Division II level, Lincoln Memorial, I believe. So yeah, Indiana State, another great option on Matt. They were top 15 in 3-point attempt rate last year. So if you're looking for bombing away, Indiana State qualifies there. All right, personal corner, just buy the almanac. Please buy the almanac. We would love it if you check that out. You're running out of time. 4.5 weeks until the season kicks off. Is that right, Kai? Or 3.5 weeks? Excuse me.
Yeah, 25 days, Jim. Incredible, insane.
The clock is ticking. Yeah, we've got 2 more conference review or preview pods after this, and 1 All-Americans predictions where we kind of put everything on the table, maybe some bold predictions that aren't necessarily out there in the ether yet. So we'll do that. But also a lot of that stuff in the almanac. So check that out, cbbalmanac.com.
Good
I can't believe Kai thought I wasn't going to put the URL.
I was a little nervous. That's where you buy it, though. It's important.
Kai is more of a plug man than me, but I did try to slip that in there.
Yes.
New website updates. Nothing. cbbalmanac.com. That's the website. That's the one you need to find.
That's right.
All right. It's time to round it up. Let's talk news and notes. But Kai, first, before we do that, we got to give a shout out to our friends at CBB Analytics.
That's right. CBB Analytics. You haven't heard of it? Well, get used to it because they are coming up fast in the analytics department of college basketball. It is the best 30,000 foot view as far as numbers go in college hoops. For those of you who love KenPom, there's a lot of the same stats on his site, but it's done beautifully in a picturesque presentation of data, charts and graphs, logos, a lot of slices with the data. He was Nick, the fine owner of CBB Analytics, was giving Matt and I a little tutorial behind the scenes of different slices you can do. It is really a very, very cool site. There's more than 25 Division I coaching staffs that are signed up this year to use it. They use it for scouting, game planning, a great coach's tool. It's also useful for sports bettors. Again, the slices you can do with all the data, the ease you can do it at, and just the presentation of it, the ease of viewing makes it fantastic for customization, we'll say. If you're a diehard college basketball fan, you're going to love the website. You can use our promo code WEAVE to get started today. It provides $40 off a subscription. Do check it out at cbbanalytics.com.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that, especially coaches. I know we have some coaches that listen to this, but not saying like we have Coach K or
yes, we do.
Blue Blood. I don't think John Cal is certainly watching us. Is he in the live stream right now? Is he chatting? I think Cal Parr may be joining us. But for those out there who are coaches at any level, I was going through just kind of the nitty gritty of the site. Like I think it's a gold mine of opportunity, just in terms of how detailed you can look at the data, but also just like the shot charting for scouting, just really good stuff. Like if you're not investing in this kind of stuff, like only 27 current D1 programs, like it's going to be like 150 in probably 3-4 years. Just my unbiased projection of that. So get on it.
Wow. Matt with the business
Good
insight for what's coming there. I think Matt might get hired by the analytics team to build out that.
I'm looking for an next opportunity from 3-Man Weave. So CBB Analytics is a very lucrative path for me. Yes.
All right. Big news, key headline. The IARP announcement came out on Kansas. No new sanctions, 3 years of probation, nothing on Bill Self. Kai, this might be surprising for listeners that know we are Mizzou folks, but I am totally fine with this. Don't care. This FBI thing was always stupid. Let's move on.
Very stupid, waste of money, lots of millions of dollars down the drain. Congratulations to the FBI. Also, a good lesson here. Don't cooperate with the NCAA. Quite obvious. Oklahoma State did, got a postseason ban for it. KU did not. Stretched it over several years, got probation, and I think they had 15 wins vacated. Who cares? So that's the lesson, folks. Don't cooperate with the NCAA.
This will go down as the Weave's best decision. We overtly avoided this topic every time something came up the last how many years? And just this is like the vindication I needed. This is awesome. I'm glad that we ignored it.
Our sport's over.
I know.
Yep. It's college basketball's finished.
And I feel bad for like Matty Norlander out there and all the guys who are on the actual beat,
they
with
had
their
to cover
journals.
They
had to do it.
They're forced to do it.
And I sort of felt like, should we be a little more serious and professional in covering this angle? And we said no. And man, we were right. So just a quick round of applause for us real quick. Nice job.
I made the effort to scroll back to I believe this came out like September 27th of 2017 was when I saw it. Like around then is when it broke. Was going to find our episode and hear, or at least try to pull the audio clip of us being like, this is dumb. Nothing will come of this. And apparently Kai, the Spotify feed only goes back 100 episodes. So I got lazy and didn't go into another medium. But I
Yeah.
do feel confident that we had some like, who cares about this? Let's not worry about it. So
Great day for
Hey.
Kansas Jayhawks fans, which
Well-
much to both of your chagrins, but a great day to be a KU Jayhawk.
it was partially a great day. And also a great day for them because, hey, they got to recruit, Matt. We can talk recruiting news. There's one other negative, cloudy storyline that I don't even want to touch on for Kansas hoops, but they got a top 50 recruit, 4-star shooting guard, Rakis Passmore, headed to KU. Really, it was wild. They were just multiple headlines featuring the Jayhawks yesterday, Wednesday. And hey, this one was good. So congrats to Bill Self and the crew there. 4-star small forward Tyler Betsy headed to Cincinnati. 4-star shooting guard Isaiah Elohim to Arkansas. Another versatile wingy type for Mr. Musselman. And 4-star point guard Curtis Givens III to LSU. Interestingly, not sure, Kai, if he'll be playing alongside or backing up Mr. Jalen Cook next year.
Yeah, good for McMahon getting a little momentum in the freshman category instead of just transfers. He needs it.
We know Matt's going to throw more cold water on McMahon.
No, I'm on
hates
McMahon
him.
this year. He is my McMahon this season. I'm back in. I'm back on the bandwagon.
Love to hear it. Nothing in the transfer world, but a couple of injuries to mention here. Mississippi State's Tolu Smith is out until at least the start of league play. The school announced. Not great here. Matt, you have been Mr. Bulldog all offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Go through the 3-man week top 40 votes, and you'll see how high Matt was on Mississippi State. Where does this, or how does this change your outlook on Chris Jans and the crew?
I think it's great that he is missing the relatively less important part of the schedule against teams that they generally won't need him as much against, right? But against the big boys, the SEC, I think Tolu is such a, guy who's been there, done that. He's going to hold up through the grueling gauntlet that is the SEC. So if they get him back, don't rush it back, Mr. Jans. Like keep him, get him 110% before he is back in the mix. Because I think they're good enough to win enough games in the non-con for at-large hopes, just to get in position to be a good SEC team, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, this is one where maybe they can figure out how to play a little more without him, where smaller, faster, more shooting on the court instead
they
of
can
like,
shoot
all
it.
right,
We know they
can
can shoot it, baby. That's what they did last year so well. Just
Gross.
shot the crap out of it.
No, they did not. No, they did not.
They did
Dead
not.
last in the country by over a percentage, not their
Literally
strength.
last.
So
The worst.
that's where it could be a struggle. Is hey, they played through the paint. That was their biggest reason for success, and now you take out the best player in the paint on the team. So we'll see. It's up to Chris Jans, a tremendous coach, to try and figure that out. I have faith he will keep that around a top 50 squad. The other injury that came out this week, Oregon's Mookie Cook, a top 40 freshman, part of that really heralded class coming into Eugene. He's out until December, maybe early January as well, after a little surgery. And Matt, sorry to the Reddit commenter, I forgot his name, didn't write it down. Funny joke there. He was like, this is the 8th straight season where off-season injuries had a big win over Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon's 0-8 in the last 8. I was on the Peyton Heads podcast last night, Oregon State podcast. Maybe my favorite podcast to be a guest on. Love those dudes. Just a swan song of a year with the Pac-12 in their final season. But they were waxing poetic about their arch rival Oregon rookie class. I guess all these guys are from, they're all in-state dudes. And like Mookie and Shellstad, they didn't have enough good things to say about them. So I'm sort of all in, Jim, on the breadcrumbs you were laying down with these rookies being really good for Dana Altman this season. I hope he gets back healthy. And I hope they're as good as advertised, because I'm kind of in on what I've been told with this group.
Yeah, my guy Shellstad, for sure. Love to hear that they're talking him up. All right, yeah, that's it for injuries. Not really any other random news and notes. Kai, anything you want to touch on? No? All right.
Not really, no.
That means we get to talk.
Tanner Holden got a waiver for Wright State. Let's mention that. That's kind of big. Maybe one of the best players in the Horizon League for those who care.
I kind of think, I'm not going to, start a rivalry here, but I think this was misreported by John, Mr. Rothstein, because he eventually he followed it up with he graduated and is immediately eligible as a graduate transfer. That to me sounds like he didn't get a waiver. He just graduated. Like, you know what I mean?
That's what I thought too. But then we texted Mr. Nagy behind the scenes, and he said there was a waiver. Like they applied for it. They weren't even expecting to get it back until late October. So like the fact that they instantly got it back to him earlier is odd. Or you're right. Maybe this was just a poor reporting job.
Yeah, because you don't need a waiver if you graduate. You're just eligible. So that's my perception and
John,
my
I trust
interpretation of it is He
I trust it.
graduated and is eligible. Matt,
In
go
the
ahead and
almanac, I cited John Rothstein's tweet. So John better be
Text
goddamn
Scott
right
again.
about this. I will text him right now.
Yeah,
And I'll ask
we'll get
permission
to
to
we'll
tell
get to the
John.
bottom of this. Here comes our source. Boom. Let's go. All right, Big East preview. This was written by Mr. Rob Doster in the almanac. Again, we are going to go off of his picks, say what we agree, disagree with. We'll start with the all conference and the awards. Player of the year, Tyler Kolek out of Marquette. Not really surprising here. Returning, I think consensus first team All-American, if not unanimous. Very much somebody that rose to the top of the sports consciousness last year with the Marquette offense. Defensive player of the year, Ryan Kalkbrenner. I'm very okay with that. I think he might be national defensive player of the year. Could also debate Donovan Clingan there, Kai. Another 7-2 shot swatter.
Yes, I'll say Kalkbrenner though.
Yep, agreed.
Kalk.
Kalk all the way. More experienced. Might be able to play big minutes. Avoids foul trouble. One of the keys of Ryan Kalkbrenner's game. Newcomer of the year, Rob went with Davian McKnight at Xavier. I think there's a couple guards you could go for in this category. St. John's, like everybody's a newcomer. But McKnight, pretty fair. Front court's really dire. They need big time playmaking in the backcourt. McKnight was rock solid at Western Kentucky. Matt seems to be a sort of a fair choice here.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a million good candidates. Like you could choose, I think there's like 6 good options. I mean, take your pick of the Villanova, Hall, Cam Spencer, UConn, the role he's going to play right away on a highly prominent team. Even, I mean, any of the St. John's dudes under Rick Pitino, like there's just a lot of good options here for this, a lot of good new talent as the league continues to rise up the ladder of elite conferences.
Yep. Coach of the year, Rob went with Rick Pitino. Seems extremely reasonable there as well.
Sensible, yes.
Raising up a team that was really, really struggling last year, completely overhauled the roster, which again, it's going to be harder and maybe to exceed expectations unless he somehow cracks that top 3, which is really, really elite in this league. But considering where he took the program over from and where it's expected to be this coming year, I think that is a totally reasonable one. Kai, if I had to put you on the spot and say, now pick the coach that's going to exceed expectations the most, given where maybe the consensus opinion is on the Big East.
Oh boy.
Is there anybody that jumps out to you there, or is it kind of like, oh, you're more or less in line with where everybody's at?
It would have to be Cooley, Holloway, or Thad Matta, but I'm not sure any of them do. I'll go with Holloway, Seton Hall.
Okay. And
in terms of
that might be because, yeah, Rob has them down at 9th in his almanac standings.
Yeah.
I'll go through those in detail in a second. Talk all conference first here. On the first team, Tyler Kolek from Marquette, of course, player of the year. Player who scares you the most per Big East coaches for the anonymous survey that Jeff Goodman did for the almanac. Joining him on that team, Justin Moore of Villanova, Bryce Hopkins of Providence, Ryan Kalkbrenner of Creighton, and Donovan Clingan of UConn, the best pro prospect per that same anonymous review. Matt, I'm going to go second team before I ask you if you had any qualms here.
Go.
Second team from Mr. Doster, Trey Alexander of Creighton, Desmond Claude of Xavier. You could maybe argue you want Davian McKnight there instead as the breakout player as chosen by the anonymous survey of the coaches, and of course, Rob's newcomer of the year. Eric Dixon of Villanova is on second team. Oso Ighodaro of Marquette and Joel Soriano of St. John's. Notably, guys, 5 of the 10 players on these two teams are centers. A loaded conference in terms of big men.
It's like
we called last year the year of the big. Yeah, it is like the Big Ten. Matthew, what are your biggest qualms with the all conference teams? Do you have any, or do you feel like he nailed it? Flawless victory.
I mean, the Desmond Claude selection is obviously going to raise some eyebrows. I love Desmond Claude, so I like that Rob just sort of went to bat for a guy who I think is going to be really good and have a breakout. But man, there's just so many good players in this league. I think you got to go somewhere else. Kai, who would you have chosen there?
I'm going the Claude selection is downright silly. He's not even the best guard on his own team. So I think that's just a crazy pick. Shireman, Ashworth from Creighton, pick a UConn guy outside of Clingan. It should have been one of those guys for sure.
Yeah, I kind of think Tristan Newton ends up sliding up to that second team. But again, maybe that's like if you're thinking Castle and Cam Spencer break out and steal votes, that could be sort of an issue there. I don't know. But like Matt said, a lot of good players in this league, and we're about to talk about most of them as we go through team by team. Start with Rob's standings. He has Marquette first, hardest team to prepare for per the coaches in the anonymous survey, followed by Creighton at 2, UConn at 3. Ooh, Rob trying to be unbiased there, not picking his Huskies
Clearly.
atop the league. Yeah. Villanova 4th, St. John's 5th, and then Providence, the coach's sleeper team, coming in at 6th. Xavier at 7th with the best developmental staff in the conference per the anonymous survey. Then you've got Georgetown 8, Seton Hall 9, Butler 10, DePaul 11. Matt, where do you have Butler? That's my biggest question for you.
Too high, which is
That was my
not
expectation.
well, we know they're better than DePaul. We don't have to look at DePaul's roster. We can just know that assertion from history and death taxes. The sun will rise. DePaul will finish last. I think they're better than Georgetown. That's where I think we have debate, right? That's sort of the who's in the cellar above the cellar. If DePaul's in the cellar, I think there's a cellar above the cellar. And that to me is Butler, Seton Hall, Georgetown. But I think Butler and Seton Hall are better than Georgetown. I do.
I do too.
Sorry, Mr. Cooley. It's sort of like the Micah Shrewsbury thing with Notre Dame. Like fun coach coming in, excitement long term. But in the near term, how good is the roster really?
Guess what? I got Georgetown dead last.
Do you really in the cellar with
Wow.
DePaul? I love it.
Georgetown's roster is terrible. And Cooley is a good coach, but not a savant by any means.
I'm kind of with
DePaul
you.
is not better
So
than Georgetown. He's not. Sorry. That's a board bet right there.
DePaul's
Yeah.
roster is better.
I had Georgetown last before I started prep for this, and I ended up nudging them ahead of DePaul. So I would side with the Georgetown side of a board bet if we're doing it. Does Kai have the stones to do what I did last year and bet DePaul? I guess you guys had DePaul against Georgetown last year in the board bet. I bet Patrick Ewing like an absolute.
Yeah,
goat.
we had DePaul, I think.
Right. So the
Let
worst
me
defense you
answer
can
at the end
make.
of this podcast.
Okay. The worst defense you
Okay.
can make is betting on Patrick Ewing. A second worst defense is betting on DePaul.
On DePaul.
So
Yeah.
don't make the same mistake here, guys.
Yep.
Hey,
Yep.
they haven't
All
finished last since 2021, man. So
Hey,
God, we've liked
there you
DePaul's
go.
roster like every year the last 7 years. Like Paul Reed and
I don't even
Charlie
like DePaul's
Moore
roster
and
that much this year.
Romeo
Garrett,
Weems. Oh,
Romeo
big old
Weems.
crush
Like
on
they have
Romeo.
fun players every year. I mean, Mo Gibson was a dog last year. Like, okay.
And they didn't.
No,
and they didn't
we'll
finish
get there.
last. Exactly.
I know. Well, because Patrick Ewing was in the league. That's he's no longer there.
All right, let's get into a team by team breakdown. We're going to go, like we said, in Rob's order. And if we really have, opinions of why we think they should be higher or lower, we'll voice them there. Going to start with Marquette, a team that really exceeded expectations last year by winning both the Big East regular season and tournament titles. That's right. UConn did not win either one, for those that forgot about that detail. Marquette was also top 25 team against the spread, 22-13, pretty elite there. Kai, was really all about the offensive breakout. I could wax poetic about all kinds of things there, but I will kick it to you. Tell me how you feel about Marquette this year, especially sans Omax Prosper headed to the NBA.
What's not to love? I think they're even better than last year. Shaka's clearly found his groove, exceeded expectations twice by a mile in Kempom. Kolek somehow developing into an All-American and potentially the best guard in America is hilarious to me. I can't wait till he plays Providence and his old coach, Kimmy English. I cannot believe he's this good. Shooting, size, toughness, veteran team, Matthew, plus upside on the bench, a couple sophomores, top 10 team with a bullet. They're awesome. Obviously have expectations this year, a little different than Shaka the last 2 years. I don't think that matters though. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, the only worry is like, is there a hangover or like you bring back everyone and they just don't have the same juice that they had last season, but I think they do because of how their season ended, right? Like the Kolek injury, and I think they thought they could have gone farther. They're probably better than Michigan State, just point blank. Love to see that matchup played with a fully healthy Kolek. The Prosper loss is kind of huge, Jim. Like I think people might be not overlooking that, but
Dude, David Joplin's really good.
I know,
think
but
he's gonna
different
be a
players.
Stud.
I know. I think he's really good too. I think they're different players. So they have to use him in a different way. Just Joplin Prosper was so unique, and how he could sort of pass and set people up. And protect the rim to some degree too. But it's just,
I think Joplin can do everything he does.
okay.
Wow.
I like this.
I'm
Bet. I
telling
like this
Totally
bet from you.
disagree. I
They're
totally
a good board bet
disagree.
by Kai.
Roughly
I like
the
this. I don't
same
agree with you,
size.
but I like your boldness.
They
I
can
don't
both
agree with you.
shoot, both play defense. Joplin's a great defender.
No, he's not.
Absolutely he is.
No,
He was the
not.
point of the
Marquette fans
press.
don't even. No, he's not. He's not a great defender.
Wow.
He's
I don't
not
have a hot
versatile.
take on
He's
this
not.
debate.
There's no NBA intrigue for Joplin as a four positional defender the way Omax was.
Just
And
wait. I'm telling you, he's breaking out.
Joplin puts no pressure on the rim. And that is a huge part of what Omax did with their
Yeah.
spacing.
Okay,
Getting to the line, finishing as a dunker. Joplin doesn't bring that same, he's just not like the same level of athlete. He's a smooth shooter. But I last year,
He's a hell of an
Marquette
athlete.
I just don't agree.
It's just
25
watching
points
this year,
better
man.
per 100 via pivot analysis. Marquette was better when Omax played. Hoop Explorer 27 points
mattered.
per 100. Joplin is different. I don't think he's bad. I just think he's different. Quick correction on Kai. Kolek never played for Kim English. I wanted to make sure we don't get yelled at by George Mason
Played for
and
Paulson,
Marquette
didn't he?
fans.
Our boy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Paulson's
annoying.
last year.
You're right.
Couple numbers on the offense. 16th nationally in rim and three rate, 4th in shot selection, both per shot quality. The process was perfect. You've got probably the best combination of passing point guard and passing center between Kolek and Ighodaro. Like both those guys can set people up. Cam Jones is the best layup finisher in the country, like almost Kyrie Irving-esque at the rim.
And he can
It's
shoot it
just-
from 35 feet too. Yeah, it's just an offensively terrifying team. Team.
Yep. Don't really know how you guard them. If you get the leaps people expect from Ben Gold and his spacing from the 5 spot, look out. And then the defense, you've got great on-ball defenders, the Mitchell, Ross, Sean Jones. Like I don't envy opposing point guards against these guys. It's just the rebounding is the one shaky area defensively, especially.
Guys, you need to watch Joplin this year, man. He's going to be a freak.
I'm kind of, Jim, I might take Kai's side here.
The press,
swing back
he
to
is the
Kai's
point
side
of their press at times. I was blown away when I watched him play. He's going to be awesome.
It's what I was blown away by both. Like I watched Omax and was like, yeah, like his bounciness was like even in the NBA offseason stuff, it's like, oh my God, that guy's a freak. And I think he'll be like an instant whatever. This team's awesome. I feel like we're debating something that doesn't actually.
Yeah, that's why they're so good. That's why I think
just
they're
really good.
Just as good. Yeah.
One nitpick is late in the season last year, they were a little bit, I would say, not vulnerable, but like they looked a little more mortal. Like didn't make shots at the high rate that they were initially. I think teams sort of like UConn kind of figured out ways to defend and guard them. Like I think they came out and just blitzed people with how different they played and how dynamic and unique their talent was. That still was awesome down the stretch, and it will be awesome this year. But they were like, holy cow, what just hit us good for the first 2 or so months. And late in the year, they lost to UConn, pretty badly. And then they barely beat Xavier at home.
Barely beat St. John's twice.
St. John's twice. DePaul was kind of close. The Butler game was closer. And then, yes, I don't know. Again, we're nitpicking Marquette fans. You rock. I'm just saying there were some signs down the stretch that if you're going to put you as a top 3 crown, okay, we kind of like UConn. We'll nitpick there. We'll nitpick the same things with you too.
Yep. Do you guys have them winning the Big East? I have Creighton personally.
I have Creighton too. And I think I'm going to regret that, but I have Creighton.
I got them all basically the same. So I think this is defensible. I do have them technically first. Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
we like this team's depth, right?
Yeah.
We like this
I
team's
have
depth
them
more
a
than
point behind
Creighton's.
Creighton. Or a half
I
point
voted
behind
Marquette 7, Creighton 8, and UConn 9. So I'll stick with that.
I think
I
Marquette's
have them
deeper.
like 5, 6, 7 or something nationally.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Creighton, another of these top 3 teams in the Big East that, like we said, are all very interchangeable as national title contenders, Big East champ contenders, no question about it. To me, Creighton just makes a lot of sense in terms of construction. You've got 3 varying sized playmakers on the perimeter in Shireman, Alexander, and Ashworth. Got a dominant rim force in Kalkbrenner. But then, Matt, the big swing outcome for this team is, as you mentioned, depth. That's a big question. And do you get the spacing and shooting from the 4 spot from Isaac Trout and Mason Miller that there's hype for, but is extremely unproven at a high level? Really, this team is the top 4 guys, and then is there enough there beyond that?
Yes, I think Mason Miller and Freddie King are both very underrated. And I'm not even like all the way in on Isaac Trout, who I think some people think is going to start. I was recently reading that they're going to probably play Mason Miller at the starting 4. I'm really bullish on Creighton because I love the core 4 with Ashworth, Alexander, Shireman, and Kalk. As most people do, I probably love them more than the average consensus, but I really like the upside of Miller and King kind of filling in like that glue guy, garbage guy piece there next to Kalk. The top 7, 8 of this roster is awesome. Like John Lawson was a sneak you could pick up from Memphis, kind of a veteran piece. Farabella's been playing college ball for 20 years now, like just a kind of an old head in the backcourt. This is a good team. I wish they had one more piece, maybe. In terms of depth, I worry about how this team stands up over the course of the season. There's an injury or two, but like if you have these horses in your stable every night and they're healthy, it's the best team in this conference and like a top 5 national team, maybe.
You guys both at Creighton number 1, technically.
Yeah, by a nose.
Close.
They have
God, Marquette's good though. I don't know.
It's too popular opinion now because I see people I don't respect tweeting this now, so it's annoying. Ashworth, not that big of a drop from Nemhard. That's clear. Ashworth is a great player. I think Kaluma was overrated, so I don't think his departure means that much. Shireman rocks. Alexander's a pro. Kalkbrenner's an All-American. There's lots to like here. It's definitely another top 10 team. Shooting for days, defensive anchor. They've been top 20 in defense past 2 years when Kalkbrenner's played like major minutes. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, at Creighton before Kalkbrenner had arrived, McDermott had one team rank in the top 100 in 2-point percentage defense. They've ranked in the top 25 the last 2 years with Kalkbrenner. Like he's just completely changed how they play. That's like Kaluma feels like a loss as an athlete, but their scheme is so just about being conservative. Don't force turnovers, force tough shots. 7th nationally in shot selection defense.
And take good
second
shots,
in
right?
three
Take
rate.
good shots. And I think Kaluma sometimes, not that he was dumb, but like, as he's trying to prove his NBA pedigree, he wasn't a great outside shooter. I think it was, Jim, I got like not Nigel Hayes vibes, and that's too extreme of a comparison, but sort of like it just didn't really fit in my opinion. So I like the look of this team a lot better without him. Sorry, Kaluma. Like you're good dude.
Agreed there. Nemhard on-off numbers were fantastic last year, but they, like Kai said, I think they were able to secure a pretty strong replacement. It's not like they're hoping Francisco Farabello develops into that. Ashworth's on-off numbers actually at Utah State were actually even better. So he will make a very positive impact, and they've got other playmakers where Ashworth doesn't have to be the main guy.
Who is this team's second best player, Jim? Sorry.
After Kalkbrenner?
Yeah.
Trey Alexander. Strong,
I agree.
Strong
okay,
opinion.
good. Yeah. I think he's going to be awesome. I think he's sort of the, maybe not a breakout guy who's always awesome, but like, I think he's going to be like All-American good potential.
Yeah. I put him onto my Big East first team. It wasn't enough to like have a bone to pick with Rob's teams, but I have him sneaking up there. All right. Next on to UConn. I mentioned how good Marquette was against the spread. Well, UConn was second nationally, 27-11. Only one push in the non-conference. Kai, that's my claim to fame with UConn, as I was on the Buffalo push early in the season, somehow survived betting against UConn in a non-conference game. But this team is loaded again, despite the loss of a couple of pros. Sonogo, Jordan Hawkins, Andre Jackson, all gone. Plenty in the chamber still. Mm-hmm. Kai, it just probably hinges on how high you are on the Castle, Spencer, Ball combo filling in on the wing. That's probably how your outlook hinges on this team.
Yeah, it's tough because like we always like are bringing down UConn because we're just trying to throw cold water on it a little bit. This team's really good. All we're saying, at least what I'm saying, I won't put words in Matt's or Jim's mouth. This team's just nowhere near last season. Last year's team might have been.
I agree. I accept those words in my mouth. I will take those words in my mouth. Yes.
Last year's might have been top 5 in the past 20 years. They're 16-0 against the spread in the non-conference, undefeated against the spread in the tournament. They were elite team in terms of the past couple decades. Newton's great. Spencer's very good, but he's no Hawkins. Caravan is awesome. He rocks the stretch 4. Klingon should be awesome, ceiling All-American, but does his foot issue linger? Who fills in instead? UConn fans love Samson Johnson. He could be good, but he's not better than Snogo. Not even close. And he's not better than Klingon was last year. Not even close.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
yes.
Not even close. And Andre Jackson, I've said it multiple podcasts, Hurley called him the most important player of the team last year. Castle's talented, but he's not Jackson. It's a young bench. It's a very good team, Matt. Top 10. I agree. It's not a repeat year, though, for me.
Yeah, when Jordan Hawkins is like an all-star in 2 years in the league, and when Donovan Klingon is like an all-star in the league in 4 years, I think we'll look back and reaffirm, wow, that UConn team was a generational team, and we'll get past the fact that they were a 4 seed just because they had some tough bouts in the Big East, just underscoring how damn good this conference is.
Hurley?
He's gotten wiser. He's wizened, Kai, as he's gotten older, and he has some of the smartest
4
dudes
seed
around
for that team. I'm just saying 4 seed for that team.
I know. I agree. Whatever. I'm not going to. They won the tournament. They're awesome. I'm not going to throw shade at Hurley.
They were awesome.
I'm with you on this is kind of my UCLA of the Pac-12, where I'm just like, yeah, it's a really good team, but there's a lot more avenues to to the story I see in mid-December. It's like, UConn, what's wrong with UConn? Like, when is Klingon going to come back? You're not there. Like, with Klingon hurt, not all the way back healthy. I
they
just
say
think
Klingon's going to be ready for the opener, by the way. Like, it's not like this is not a Kentucky thing where both centers are lingering into the season. That's
I don't
it's a
like
strain.
Guys
it's not a break.
Injuries. Okay,
there's no surgery.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
So they're being ultra cautious. Okay, good. And Caravan's going to be awesome. The guards still leave a little bit to be desired. That's where I'm a little bit sour on this team.
Caravan does get overlooked a lot. He's very good.
Caravan's great. Yes. I mean, I think the front line is awesome. And if they weaponize Klingon like I think they can, like Klingon can pass, kind of play through him a little more. You don't have to have you won't feel the loss of Hawkins and Jackson as much if you can kind of change the emphasis of your offense, so to speak.
Yeah. Biggest coup of the offseason for them, probably keeping their whole coaching staff together after winning a national title. That's really, really hard to do, especially because Kamani Young and Luke Murray are probably getting looked at for a lot of head coaching jobs, or should have been. But yeah, like I said kind of before, it comes down to Jordan Hawkins, Andre Jackson was the best 2-3 in the entire country, like elite, both NBA players. And Cam Spencer and Stephon Castle are really good, but they're not the same level. Like they just objectively are downgrades, and that takes this team a little bit down from where it was in the past. Oh, it's too bad you're a top 7, top 8 team. Like we're not throwing a ton of shade here. This is still a national title contender. Next up, Villanova. Boy, Matthew, if Jay Wright was coaching this roster, I would have them
number 1,
5 in the country.
Yeah,
I mean, this roster's loaded with versatility, veterans, shooting, everything that Jay Wright was always able to weaponize in terms of his teams. You got a point guard that can post up. We know how deadly that is in a Jay Wright offense. Unfortunately, Kyle Neptune is coaching, not Jay Wright. So how far does that knock the team down? I know Greg McDermott had a bunch of quotes about how Villanova was the team everyone was overlooking at Big East Media Day. How do you feel about this team, Matthias, given the conflict between how much we love the roster and how unsure we are still about Kyle Neptune on the sideline?
I do think I would have them number 1, and not like leaps and bounds better than everybody else. I just think it's kind of the margins are rather thin at the top of the totem pole. But yeah, you have a healthy Justin Moore, you have healthy Eric Dixon as sort of your bookends. You bring in 3 just awesome transfers: TJ Bamba, Hakeem Hart. Hakeem Hart is the ultimate impacts winning player. Like defensively, his offensive versatility, takes the right shots, makes the right play. Tyler Burden is like a pro. He's going to be a star in that offense. And they have kind of their fringe guys like Longino and Joku and Pat, like guys who have been there in the system who are now just sort of bench pieces, and they can develop in a safe space. They don't have to be in the spotlight relied upon. And it's such an old team. I mean, fifth year, senior, and sophomore. But I don't know. It comes down to Neptune, Kyler. It's how much are we going to sell or buy Neptune based on what happened last season? Was it injury related? Was it Neptune related? The whole Cam Whitmore thing was weird. Lots of not that. I don't know. I just know I love the roster, and I think it's almost too good to screw up.
Archidiakono is listed at 6'5". Is he really 6'5"? Man,
he's weirdly tall. Yeah.
Imagine how small we would look on the college basketball court. Yeah, ultimate test for Neptune, because this roster, this would be a top 5 team in the country under Wright, in my opinion. It would be. At least I'd put him there. Moore has been forgotten about. He's an All-American level player. Bamba, Hart, Burton is an amazing transfer class. All 3 versatile, can score, defend to various levels. Dixon's a rock. And I agree with Matt's point. All of a sudden, the bench looks very good. Guys like Longino, Armstrong, and Archie, not necessarily guys you want to rely on to start, but as your 6 through 8, yep, absolutely. Again, echoing Matt, this all depends on Neptune, because the roster is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, one of the few things they didn't have last year was Lance Ware, bouncy.
Oh yeah, Lance Ware's
5 option. He's not gonna alter their outlook, but it gives them that one more extra option that, we need a little more of a rim protector. The one thing in the stats that I really liked is that the switching still works. They're 14th nationally in defensive rim frequency. They kept you out on the perimeter. You have to make jumpers over the top, and they're going to be super, super long all over the perimeter. And I think that's going to be really tough to do against them, given all the offensive weaponry they have. These guys already highlighted. Yeah. I think the roster is such a high ceiling potential team. We just got to make sure that Mr. Neptune pulls the right levers, as one says.
it was the first year in like, I think a decade they weren't like top 100 in 3-point percentage. They just didn't really make shots, and it wasn't a great shooting team. So I think we kind of saw that going in. But that's not the question. Can this team make shots, and can they defend the rim? Like, is Dixon too much of a ground bound bully? I still love him, but I don't know. Again, you're trying to nitpick here if you're looking for flaws.
Yeah. Their rim defense is stay away. Well, once you're there,
Right.
you're probably
You're probably
having a
going to
decent
score.
chance
Yeah,
to
even,
finish.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, next up, number 5, St. John's. Well, this is a brand new roster reset with Rick Pitino at the top, Kai. So I look at it and I see multiple playmakers at the guard spots. I see some lineup optionality on the wings. I see a dominant double-double big man in this league with Zuby Ejiofor coming in to give us more upside off the bench. You give that to Rick Pitino, and I feel pretty darn good about this team.
Yes. I love Pitino as much as the next guy. I called him the best coach in the country back when he was at Louisville. And he did an impressive job at Iona, obviously. They have become overrated. It's getting to be too much. They're not a top.
Jim doesn't agree.
They're not a top 20 team, fellas, at least in the preseason.
They are for me.
They don't have the talent, I don't think. Jenkins and Dingle is a great mid-major backcourt. We don't know how it translates to the Big East. Dingle's always hurt, by the way. Taylor played for Oregon State. Ledlam, Harvard, again, in theory, good. Undersized for sure in the Big East. Soriano's a monster. He rocks. All-conference player. The bench is all transfers. Could be good. I just think it might take some time. I think the upside for a top 3 finish in the Big East, that's like top upside is there. I just think, and there's also, of course, a relatively high floor with Pitino. I just think because there's so many new pieces here, everyone's new except Soriano. It's all mid-major guys except, a couple role players for UConn, Kansas. Not to poo-poo them, they're good players, but I just think it's getting too much, Matthew. Loved this team when they were going like 100-1 to win the title. Now it's like, okay, they're not 20th right now, in my opinion.
I'm with Kai. Jim, so you think this is a top 20 team, you rascal, you. I have them as like the best of the rest.
Soft defense for why.
Okay.
Yeah.
My quick input is I think they're the best of the rest in a league that's really good this year. But there's just more fragility amongst the Xaviers of the world, the Providences of the world, the Butlers, the Seton Halls. I think St. John's slots in very neatly in their own little kind of mezzanine, I'll use, in the Big East, below the top 4 and above the rest of the Rat Pack.
The reason I think they're top 20 is because I think the defense is going to be top 20. Like that's the biggest part of it. In 17 years as a high major coach, Rick Pitino has had more teams finish first in defense than outside the top 40. So I feel
awesome
pretty
stat.
good. Yeah.
That's insane.
He's had like 13 of the 13 of the 17 have been top 25. He's got a big anchor in the paint here. He's got some versatility on the wing. The one, I guess, nitpick, as Kai pointed out, is it's a lot of really good mid-major players. Maybe this isn't quite the high major rosters he had at Kentucky and Louisville that I'm citing.
Yeah.
I think it's closer defensively there than maybe just calling them mid-major guys gives it credit for. But the guards are relatively big. I think only Jordan Dingle like pops to me as definitely a bad defender in the rotation. Like unless you put Conway in the rotation, he's obviously not going to defend at the same level, but there's size, there's athleticism, there's an anchor in the paint, and Pitino on the sideline, comfortable with the defense. And I think there's enough offensive firepower where it's a top 20 team for me. I'm betting on Pitino, and admittedly, I often get too excited about first year coaches. So
we should put like
take that caveat.
He's not your
there
typical first year coach.
Yeah, he's different, built different. The Villanova St. John's, like this is a case study for future basketball students. Like put them side by side, what they look like now. Let's see how they track. One awesome roster, coach, one roster, coach, insanely good. What gives?
They will be 50th in KenPom when he brings out his ratings, and everyone's going to make a stink.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, because they're like 60th and Bart Torvik's ratings too. Like,
I bet
if they're
higher
priced
than
like that, I'm
KenPom,
excited to bet on them. But yeah, Kai, if they're priced like a top 25 team, I won't be betting on. I won't be in a rush to fade them as you might be. But yeah,
I don't want to fade them. It's too much. It's a hype train now where it's like, okay, come on, guys. Let's pump.
Everybody's competing to say who can have the hottest take on a Rick Pitino team.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. Okay, let's move on to another first-year coach, number 6, Providence. This roster has intriguing pieces too, guys. Hopkins and Carter are proven Big East studs. Orduro is a dominant A10 big man. You got Jaden Pierre and Garway Duval with real point guard intrigue potential. Ticket Gaines can play at this level. We know that, having started at Tennessee and being a solid A10 guy. But will the potential be optimized? Matthew, going to go to you first here. I don't think you can say Kim English maximized his talent at George Mason. Why is he going to do it at Providence?
I like him more than both of you. The best thing he did this offseason was keeping Hopkins and Carter, and also infusing, Oduro, who another kind of big man injury risk, but he was a real factor, a real weapon. I think he'll be good in the Big East for sure. And you bring him in Ticket Gaines. So you kind of have that familiarity with Kimmy from George Mason. You have some legit proven like high level Big East players. Are we worried about the point guard position a little bit?
A little. I know there's
marks?
A lot of hype for Duval and his athleticism, but
okay.
Yeah.
Kyle, you're with me on that? Yeah, that's I know Duval got a ton of love, but like
it's freshman.
It's he's a freshman, and he's not like Isaiah Collier level freshman. He kind of reminds me, who's the other freshman who's Pitt's freshman that got hyped up? It's just some of these like kind of local guys that have really loud grassroots careers. I think a little bit overhyped coming out of the gate. And yeah, you're a freshman playing in a top tier conference. Like that's usually going to come with turbulence and baggage with it. I do think Kimmy's better than both of you give him credit for, but you're right. This roster is a little thin, and there's some potential. I do see a floor here that's probably lower than most people think.
I just think people rush to crown Kimmy. It's like to get this job after 2 so-so years at George Mason. That's impressive for marketing yourself, honestly. He exceeded expectations in KenPom in 2022, but he was 14-15 and 7-9 in the A10 with a very good roster. You could argue his starting five was better than anybody in the A10 that year from a talent perspective. He underperformed last year. That's a fact. He was 155th in KenPom until a late surge. Again, had talent. Now he's in the spotlight. Again, the talent here, it's undeniable. Hopkins, All-American level. Carter, All Big East. Gaines Oduro, I'm a little bit actually skeptical on Oduro's impact at this level. Frankly, he didn't have great stats last year against tier A and B competition. I really worry about Pierre. If is he good enough to be point guard in the Big East, and Duval, it's a lot of Carter and Hopkins. And Jim, we're not ready to trust Kimmy as a fantastic coach. He's 10th best coach in this league, 11th.
I think he's at best 9th. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Better than Stubblefield, and that's about where
maybe.
Yeah, we don't know that for sure
Stubblefield's
yet.
at DePaul. You had no idea.
Okay.
I think this is kind of a funny way to think about it, but if we're skeptical of Jaden Pierre, it's because he was going to transfer if he beat his coach in one-on-one, and he couldn't. His coaches couldn't beat Kim English in one-on-one, who former pro, who is only 35, but you'd like your 19-year-old potential starting point guard to be able to win that, especially one-on-one. Kim English was a great floor spacer.
Three dribbles. Kind of cheap, honestly.
Kimmy's got some height on him too.
Shoots over him.
Sure.
Yeah.
How many top 40 teams do you guys think are in the Big East? At least 5, right?
Yes, 5.
Well, when Kim beats one of them, it will be his first. It'll be his first top 40 win as a coach. He did not have many opportunities at George Mason because the A10 was bad. But his only top 70 win was Dayton last year when they were banged up. 2 years ago. He beat number 45 Dayton. So I just he has to prove that he can coach at this level.
Yeah,
the at Maryland win was like this. Oh my God!
Yeah, Danny Manning, great. Team completely Danny Manning, and they weren't even good. Yeah, exactly.
And the next game they lost to James Madison. They lost to Old Dominion. They lost to. Question in the chat from Brian here: Kim English or Kyle Neptune? Kyle Neptune's proven to exceed expectations by a mile at Fordham already.
English
could have been Ergo.
I think you can.
They both have 2 years.
I think you can.
It's a good question.
It's
a great. It's a great premise.
I abstain.
You're gonna abstain.
Give me this year. Give me this year.
I would say Kyle Neptune finished above Kim English in 2022 in the A10, while at Fordham rather than at George Mason. So
pretty good indication there.
Yeah.
Also, when I watch their teams play,
but I'm not like. Well, are you gonna say when you watch George Mason play you see smart things? Because I don't.
I kind of do.
No,
I kind of do. I've seen some bad late game stuff, which is like, oh come on, what are we doing here? But I feel like the way they play, the organization's pretty good. Like I think it's a well organized offense. I have more hope. And I see it more as a glass half full thing for Mr.
Watch all 3 Virgin Islands games from last year like I did, and see if you end up laughing at what George Mason does.
Yeah, that was a tough stretch. Boston College by 15, Belmont, and then he lost to a bad Buffalo team by 8. Yeah, that wasn't good. That was not good.
Yeah. All right, we'll stop litigating the debate we've been having for centuries on this podcast. We're going to let Cam English prove it this year. The roster is good enough to be good. We're going to give him a
Bryce
chance,
Hopkins is a pro. Bryce Hopkins is a great player. Yes.
Some say Carter is too. Sorry,
and Carter's a freak athlete. My God, every time I watch him, I'm like, is that guy really that good? Yeah, he is.
Next up is Xavier, another coach we like a ton. Sean Miller immediately resurrected this program back into the tournament after a long drought under Travis Steele. Got him far enough, but then, couldn't quite get past Texas. This year, heading into the year, just gutted by injuries. We've got Zach Fremantle and Jerome Hunter, the likely starting front court. Both they're preparing to not have either guy for the entire season. So that's not great. Indiana transfer Logan Duncombe left the team due to potential injury issues. I think he could return. He didn't quit or anything. But I mean, they are, like I said, gutted in the front court. It's a mid-major backcourt in the backcourt, although I do love both Olivari and Davion McKnight. There's just questions here in terms of both depth and really big questions defensively, Kai, that were not answered at all last year. And I don't think this roster has a lot of answers either.
Yeah, they'd be a lot higher for me if they had Hunter and Fremantle, obviously, but they're gutted, man. None of those guys, no Duncombe. It's a big red flag. You're relying on Ousmane, who wasn't bad at North Texas, solid. And you're relying on freshmen to fill in the gaps in the front court. And that's a big deal. I think defense is a problem. Probably a lot of small ball. And Matt, now you have a Conference USA backcourt with McKnight and Olivari. I think they're talented, but I don't think they're Big East talented. They're not. Are you taking those two guys over most of the teams in this league? I would say no.
How would you compare those two thinking about heading into last year, how you perceived Sule Boom, who was a Conference USA transfer?
Yeah, true. That's true. Absolutely. I did not think Boom would be a first team All Big East guy. So that's a very good point. I think the floor is low. Sean Miller's great. Yes. He'll probably overachieve wherever you think that you're going to put him, unless you have him second, like the guy in the chat. But the floor is low.
Yeah, I looked at McKnight and Olivari, and I'm like, but then I'm like, I'm gonna let's assume they're close to as good as Sule Boom was, right? Which is kind of a leap of faith, but I think you have to give some credit there.
Last year's Conference USA rocked.
Was
like
awesome.
This isn't from some mid-major garbage league. It was an awesome CUSA.
Very good point. I think we talked this when projecting Jordan Brown to Memphis. Like, it's really not a huge, really, really, really good mid-high major league. But the front court, man, that was kind of the heartbeat of this team. Miller's teams, while I know they play more spacey and pacey last season, he's always been a front court big man whisperer. He's gotten the most out of those guys, optimized those guys. And you take away Fremantle, who I sort of think is overrated, and that's a whole nother conversation. But Hunter was such a key piece on both ends. Just like a, kind of a junkyard dog in there. They lose their identity to me. And I know Osamane's going to be really good probably, but you're right. It's all freshmen, sophomores. What's his name?
Ousmane.
Ousmane. It's not Ousmane.
Ousmane.
It's all freshmen besides those dudes. That's it's a little bit concerning. And I'm sure I'm being, Jim, give me a freshman take on one of these guys. I think we have to appease some Xavier fans.
There's a lot of hype for Djokovic. Coming over, he's great name from Serbia, so a lot to live up there as the best tennis player of all time, namesake. But so the Xavier professor in our chat just said defense will be better. Boom, Kunkel, Fremantle were all bad. You have to replace them with good defenders. You can't bring in a 5'11" freshman scoring dynamo like Trey Green and expect him to be better than Adam Kunkel. Djokovic, I don't know exactly what his defensive identity will be. Go look at Rice's defensive numbers with Quincy Olivari on the floor.
Is not a great
he's
defender.
Not fixing things that Boom and Kunkel caused problems at. McKnight, I'll give you credit. He's a little bowling ball. I think he can actually be a very stout defender.
Claude, fantastic. Claude's great. Claude's very good.
Yeah, Claude's long. I just don't think it's a guarantee that this defense is better because you have no rim protection, really. Ousmane can some, but no depth behind him. And then do you have the big wings? Do you have the versatility with your lineup options? I think there's some debate there. So I'm with these guys. I think Sean Miller elevates this. I do like the backcourt. I'm going to go pro. I'm going to say positive things about the backcourt, but the floor is low if the defense ends up bad and the freshman bigs don't really come along.
I love Sean Miller too. I'm rooting for him.
Yep. Next up in Rob's rankings, not Kai's rankings, that would be Georgetown. Got Ed Cooley coming in, taking over first year in DC. Yeah, I look at this team and I see young and thin. I don't know if there's much depth here. Like Ryan Mutombo was an afterthought on terrible teams, and now he like has to play. They only have 10 or 11 scholarship guys or less. Kai, do they have like 9 scholarship guys? It is not a deep team.
Not a lot.
And you're counting on Jaden Epps, Rowan Brumbaugh, some guys coming back closer to home that haven't proven a ton yet at the college level. Give us the very bearish take on Georgetown, Kai. Why is this 11th in the Big East for you?
Yeah, I said, come on, Rob. 8. Cooley's a good coach. He's not a miracle worker. We've talked about the Cooley zone. That's where Cooley usually finishes in KenPom. That's like 60 to 80 in the country at Providence. His best year was number 32. The roster is just not up to par. I think Epps has upside, clearly. Sophomore, pretty high pedigree. Styles is a complete unknown. Heath is pretty meh to me. He's played on Boston College and Georgetown. Hasn't really impacted winning. Masood is so meh in terms of a player. Kansas State, Wake Forest, had never been impressed with the guy. Supreme Cook is a Metro Atlantic guy. He will not do well in this conference. Brumbaugh, completely unknown. It's yikes for me. I'd say there's almost no chance they finish 8th, Matthew.
Man, I'm a little higher on the roster. Actually, no, I'm not. No, I'm
The
not.
roster sucks. It sucks.
Okay, sorry. I like Masood and Cook a lot more than you do, apparently. And there's some upside with Styles and Brumbaugh from, power conferences, both like for 4-star, fringe 5-star guys. Like that, it's a lot of projection. And Cooley's not like he's a guy I trust a little more with continuity, multi-year system developer. Like that was.
I think he said the same thing too. He said the same thing.
If you purchased our fine almanac, like the headline quote is, I know we get a lot of shit for putting coach speak in the from the coach, but I think Rob had a brilliant quote here. What's the rest of, we're going to replicate the same formula from Providence in 2011, like community engagement, season tickets, fan energy. Like when you're highlighting the periphery crap and nothing about your on the floor product.
That's a read between the lines.
Like, yeah. Right.
What is he not telling me?
So yeah, this team, again, we'll get to the DePaul versus Georgetown debate, but this team should not be picked any higher than 10th in this conference.
This is a little, it's not to the egregious levels of Notre Dame where it's like, hey, I feel good about the long-term hire, but the roster is horrifying. Like, I think this roster is better than Notre Dame's roster. But yeah, you're kind of squinting to see a lot of upside with this team.
Epps is good, right? Did we like Epps?
I like Epps.
Yeah.
But Matt, can you name 5 guys, a 6th guy you feel good about on this team? Like, I don't know. I know you've always loved Jay Heath. Anybody that's scored 10 points a game at Boston College, you love. That's kind of like a Matt. That's a Matt thing.
Hey, Supreme Court scored 19 against Xavier last year.
I think Cook's pretty good. I think Cook's actually a good player. I think Cook's good.
He's fine. He's fine.
He's a tough, he's an Ed
he better play 40 minutes a game because I don't want to see
like
Ryan Mutombo on the court.
Yeah, I agree. Mutombo needs to not play.
Has to. So yeah, it's more long-term hire here. The immediate outlook maybe not quite as strong for the Hoyas, but we all agree they will be better than the last 2 years. Correct?
Yes, it's almost impossible.
They could have 3 injuries and they'll be better.
Or they in the 200s in KenPom. They're better than last year.
The 0-18 year. Yeah, it was dire. It was time to make a change, and we think they made a positive one for the long term. All right, next up, number 9, Seton Hall, an interesting team to look at here. Shaheen Holloway's team's always very defense focused, but he's had Casey and Defo for 5 years of his career, one of the best 6'7" shot blockers you will ever find, almost Jason Maxiel-esque. And now you take him away. I don't know if the offense is going to be sharp. Holloway's offenses are never sharp. Matt, do you have a positive spin to give on Seton Hall here, a team that's Rob's got 9th?
I like him on paper, but I know I'm not going to like him when it comes time to play basketball. I think they're dealing with a lot of injury stuff again. This was a really, really beat up team last season. And I think they're bringing back a lot of guys who are dealing with the same stuff. I like the roster more than you guys do. I know we talked for this behind the scenes, like Richmond, Dawes, Dre Davis. I think it's a really good big three. I know Wusu didn't really impact winning at St. John's, but I think he's a fun piece in a different in greener pastures can be effective. And Kai, your boy Eli Hutchins Everett from Austin P, gonna terrorize front lines, baby. In all seriousness, and you got Bediako from Santa Clara, like a big piece. It doesn't quite have the identity that I think a Holloway built team has, but I still kind of like some of the pieces. And I know this team's better than Georgetown. So that's where I'm at with this team.
Yeah, that was my first point. On paper, this team's
totally
way
agree.
better than Georgetown. It's not even close. I don't know how you can even reasonably say it's not. Richmond, Dawes, Wusu, Dre Davis, that's a legit backcourt. I agree. They're going to probably play Davis the 4. Yeah. Front court, though, I think has questions. I love Hutchins Everett in the Ohio Valley and the A-Sun. I don't think he's a Big East player. Bediako's fine. He's not Charles Bediako.
Jaden Bediako is a great 22-minute a game guy for the 75th best team in the country, and he might be exactly that for Seton
Yes, that's a
Hall.
great point.
The bench is questionable. I agree with Jim. And Defo is a huge loss. So is Samuel. I think those guys were huge to making this team a stalwart on defense last year. I think defense still is probably pretty solid. I think you have a high floor with Holloway on that end, but the offense is yikes again.
Yeah, and scoring at the rim is just not anywhere near as difficult. And that's kind of been the thing with Holloway defenses, that you cannot get easy buckets against them. And I think there's going to be a little bit of an uptick there. And Matt, I know you love Dre Davis. The offense functions better with him on the floor. Agreed. The defense got equally worse every time he played last year. So
I think because he played
stuff.
Yeah, I think he's an undersized bowling ball 4. And I think those were a little bit skewed because he was usually coming in for like Indefo or one of the other bigs, which are more defensive minded. But you're right, he's probably best as a 4 offensively, but yeah, he's only 6'5", like a 6'5" 4 in the Big East doesn't exactly play.
Right. And does that take away from what Holloway's identity is as a coach, as like the defense first, tough as nails? Can he succeed with a team that tilts, solid offensive backcourt? I don't know. Again, the defensive backcourt, Wusu, Richmond, that's really, really tough to get through on the first wave. But I just think it's going to be disjointed again this year for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, better than Georgetown. We agree. Unanimous on that one. Number 10, Butler. This team needed a restart after last year. Just complete reset button, unplug it, plug it back in. That's kind of what Thad Matta did with this roster this offseason. You could basically kind of argue that this is year 1 again and just say like, this is a complete reset. But I'm just hesitant. After last year, we got burned thinking this team could be competent, and they really, really tumbled. And the thing that bothered me is they got blown out a lot. It wasn't like they had a bad Big East record, but competed. Like, they got crushed frequently.
Wasn't that kind of like last year? They just gave up in games. It was kind of the Georgetown thing. It was like, yeah, we're getting smoked. We're packing it in. I think I agree. Starting over here is a good thing. Harris, Lukosius, Taylor, that combination just didn't work. Chemistry wise, something must have been off. They didn't fit together.
None of those guys could get to the rim at all. It was like, we cannot drive to the basket.
Yeah. Manny Bates being out killed them. So that's a big caveat. Obviously,
he was enormous.
He's obviously, and Ali Ali hurt a lot of the year too. I think Alexander and Davis is a really solid 1-2 backcourt. I know Pierre Brooks has some pedigree, but it clearly didn't get on the court that much for Michigan State. I think Telford's probably out of his element. I'm really ragging on them in major guys. I just don't. I just have more doubts with these guys. He's versatile. That I'll give him that. I know Screen and Moore, the Patriot transfers and NEC transfer and Patriot transfer, aren't really going to move the needle a ton. It's just not exciting, I suppose, Matthew, this team. I think they could finish above Xavier, Seton Hall, Georgetown, DePaul. That's kind of their ceiling, but I'm not sure they're cracking the top half for being a tournament team.
I didn't love that. Rick Pitino made this whole thing about how he chose a select few from St. John's as like the right winning guys, and Posh Alexander was not in that mix, sort of implying that maybe he
interesting
didn't.
Like, a guy
I don't love
a guy
that.
who's had awesome ball pressure defenses said he didn't want Posh
right.
Alexander.
That was concerning. Like on paper is like, that could look like a Russ Smith 2.0 if under, and then Pitino didn't marry. So I want to go back to the well for Butler. I think I'm still going to, and I probably will find it to be dry again as I look at Posh Alexander, and you're right, kind of the Island Misfit toys. I did love that he hired Alex Barlow, who's like a rising star. He's like kind of one of the Celtics.
Butler grad right there.
Butler grad. He
Plays
was
for
part of
Brad
the
Stevens.
Celtics. Yeah, Brad Stevens guy was working with Damon Stoudemire, kind of like that really smart, one of the smartest guys. Maybe they'll play a little better this year intelligently. And they didn't really have any sort of like, oh, Thad Matta's a good coach last year, evidence on the floor. But injuries just like emotionally crippled this team last year. Like that's why they gave up so many freaking games. They had no players. And then there's like, what the hell is the point? I worry about like chemistry being a similar wrench in this year's team. Like Posh sort of kind of hijacks the offense sometimes. And I don't know, DJ Davis can just make crazy tough shots, but like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like these guys all come together nicely.
Yeah. And they're going to need to, because it's not like they're going to overwhelm teams with talent. I mean, we just went through like the top 6 rosters, I guess maybe not quite St. John's, but we're like, these 5 of the 6 rosters are loaded with talent. So you have to play competitively together to compete with them. And last year's Butler didn't have that. Maybe they find it this year. I mean, defensively, they were still kind of solid, 55th per KenPom, 40th in shot quality and what they gave up. They competed on that end, but they just got no easy baskets, and that got exacerbated when Bates was out. So maybe they're able to produce more. But again, I don't look at this team and think like, oh, we've got dynamic slashers joining a post threat, because Jalen Thomas is just like a dunker spot guy. So I'm a little worried about where this offense goes. I think it stays kind of nightmarish.
Upon second review, I'm worried about my emphatic Butler's better than Georgetown take.
I'm not emphatic, but I Butler 9th, Georgetown 10th.
Okay.
Butler's better.
Yeah, I do think Butler's
Thank you.
better.
I need some confidence, Kai. Good.
Remember when Butler beat Kansas State, Matt?
Butler had moments last year. Thank you, Jim. I swear, Butler.
We have to mention that every time we mention Butler.
When they were healthy,
Butler toyed with K-State and Yale, 2 like legit tournament caliber teams. Like as bad and as laughable as they were at times. There were moments.
There were moments. Hopefully there will be more moments this year.
Far between, but there were moments.
I'm not sure, Matt. I'm going to bet on their side the first 10 games like I did last year. I don't have the guts to do that with this team.
Man, Posh's a wild ride. I will say that.
All right, number 11. That's DePaul. We've got them. I've got them down there. Kai's not. Matt does. We're gonna go to Matt first here. But Matt, I looked at this roster, and the first thing I noticed is that Caleb Murphy is still on it. So I put them last. Matt, do you know how many of his field goal attempts were mid-range 2s last year?
I assume all of them. I haven't seen him shoot another shot outside of that range.
62%, which is the highest number I've ever seen on Hoop Math. And I haven't maybe looked at every team, every player over the years, but 62% mid-range is a ridiculous amount. He made 31% of them. He's had an 80 rating every year of his career, and he uses a ton of shots. So can you build enough around him to elevate the offense? I don't think so. DePaul's 11th. Tell me why you agree.
It's the first year, Kai, we talked this at the onset, like almost every year I find like a player or two. I'm like, yeah, this is a good play. Like DePaul's always had a couple of intriguing pieces. And I think that's sort of made them, they've always been the butt of the Big East jokes, but like they've always been better than god awful because they have just enough talent. Like when they had the 7-0 start and the ranked DePaul, a couple of years back, and they've always kind of played like Villanova oddly close up there at the Pavilion. Like they've had some like, pockets of hope. With this roster, I don't see any of that. Like I really don't. I mean, like Deshaun Nelson and Caleb Murphy are go-to guys. Like Jalen Terry has some pedigree. I didn't really love what I saw from him last year. And this is kind of this is the worst crop of newcomers in this conference. So everyone got better than DePaul this season.
Worst crop of newcomers. Yeah. I mean, it's a high.
They were the worst team, in my opinion, not named Georgetown. Everyone got better than they did. So that's not a good blueprint.
Is this crop of newcomers worse than Marquette's, who brought in like one freshman? Because they're
because the freshmen will be good. The freshmen will be good in 2 years for sure. So yes, this is the worst crop of newcomers. Yeah,
I mean, if you're going from, I know they were super injured in the paint last year, and that really hurt them. But then you bring in Mac Etienne, who's A, injury prone, and B, bad. I don't love that. That's your like heart and soul of your defense.
And Stubblefield, isn't he? He was known as like the big man whisperer. Like he's a kind of a big man developer. He worked with the bigs, I think, in Oregon. So that's sort of his forte. And it's like, okay, well, you had really good bigs here. I can maybe buy into that being like a strength of this team. But yeah, it's Mac Etienne, and I don't know who's the other
freshman. I think you lean on the freshman a little bit there. Yeah.
Who's the kid from Africa was really good?
Benge
I think.
Abbas is the NBA.
Whatever. Yeah. He's a rookie. How good can he be? This team's not good. Kai.
I don't think they're good, but Stubblefield giving a pass last year. They were so hurt. They
They
didn't
were
have their
hurt. I
big
know. Good
guys
point.
the entire
Good
year,
point.
and he
Good point.
overachieved 2 years ago. They had a much better roster 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean Terry's not bad.
You know who wasn't on it 2 years ago?
Caleb Murphy.
Caleb
I
Murphy.
know Caleb Murphy's a cancer. I agree. The transfers are decent. Elijah Fisher was a 5-star, and he's like 19.
He's really good.
Like,
He was like a reclass, I think, right?
He could be super good. I mean, I'm not going to bank on it. ETN, former top 100 guy. I think Odin's fine. It's DePaul. I think Stubblefield will keep them afloat a little bit. At the roster, I think is just as good as Georgetown's, though.
Yeah, Matt, remember we
there.
were talking about South Carolina and we're like, why'd you get transfers from Minnesota and not DePaul, but like if you're DePaul, why'd you get a transfer from Minnesota and South Carolina? Like try to find a little more winning players, perhaps.
UCLA, Texas Tech. Wyoming.
Also, Mo Gibson was awesome last season. Like, I don't think people realize how good he was. Like, he kept his team in many, many games. Kai's right, because they were hurt a lot of the year. When they were healthy, they showed some punch. They showed some bite, and Gibson was kind of at the heart of that.
Hey, Deshaun Nelson's good.
Offense.
Deshaun Nelson, the JUCO guy last year.
He's not an eye
better than people
test.
thought.
Not an eye test guy for me. I don't like what I see.
He's not
Not
bad.
an eye test guy.
He's not bad.
We'll see. Yeah, this league has very strong divides, I think. You have that incredible top three. Feel fairly decent that Villanova and St. John's are coming in that next group. Providence has the upside, and then just the bottom four. I'm like, I don't know. Xavier's the total wild card because of the injuries and youth on that roster, but the bottom four, I feel comfortable as the bottom four.
I can agree with that. I'd probably put Nova closer to that top three, Jim. Can I go top 3.5 maybe? Unless Kyle Neptune just doesn't know how to, and he tells his team to shoot on his own goal. I think St. John's is, me and Kai sound like we're more St. John's wild card than emphatically good. But I agree with your tiers.
I think they're a wild card too.
I'll put my nuts out here instead of actually have an opinion. I'll board bet you guys St. John's against Nova. Final KenPom rating.
Oh yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, I'll take it too.
I figured you'd take
Kyle
it.
Neptune. So I'm going to hold this in your face
ahead.
if you're not better than St. John's.
I have him 0.5 ahead, so I'm not like emphatic. But you know what? Let's have fun. Let's throw the board bet out there.
Wait, let's go Big
really
East.
Close to the top three though.
Let's go Big East Big East record, Jim. It's more fun we do record, not ranking in KenPom. Well, if
and I
we
guess
can
it's still
choose
double round robin, right? So there's actually true outcome.
Oh, well,
20 games. Yeah,
no,
they play 20 games.
It's still 20. It's still 20. Yeah. Yes, let's do that.
Right. And yeah, Big East record helps me let St. John's come together a little bit. So
yeah,
cool.
We'll give you your little Petri dish non-conference. Exactly.
Thank you. Yep. Much appreciated. I'll probably need it. Okay. How many teams make the NCAA tournament, given what we just said about the divide of the league? Kai, go to you first.
5. There was 5 last year. There'll be 5 again. And I think it's top 5. I think St. John's number 5. I think Providence misses out, but they could also replace St. John's.
Matthew.
5. I think St. John's is a bubble inclusion. And if they are anywhere near the bubble, you don't even act like that committee is leaving out Rick Pitino. Like, they will leapfrog 20 more deserving teams if they're even within like the 70th net, and they have like, so yeah, I'm going 5 as St. John's being the 5th team.
Not that it matters a whole lot, but think about like the bottom half of this conference. And this happened last year. Villanova was 10-10 and they were 6th. That could happen again because of the balance, right? The top 3 teams are going to go 2, 3, 4 losses, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's going to be really tough for the bubble teams, i.e. Providence, Xavier, to pick off wins against the top 3 teams. That's going to be really, really tough, and you're probably going to need them. So I will go 5 as well. I don't think Providence wins enough close games. I don't think Xavier is healthy enough. I think it's that top 5 for me. And I don't have any of them that close to the bubble. So solid 5 for me.
I think Georgetown will win a big game or 2 at home. I bet they beat one of Marquette, Creighton, UConn, Villanova. Maybe I'm getting too.
Maybe Villanova.
Yeah, Villanova.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Final bit here that I want you guys to do. Predict the final score of Providence hosting Georgetown, the return of Ed Cooley to the AMP, the Dunk, where it's going to be a majorly hostile environment. Does the emotional lift for Providence mean they absolutely demolish Georgetown?
I think that's
Kai,
a
what do you think?
bloodbath. Yeah, I do.
I think Cooley covers.
But Cooley covers as a dog.
We do love Ed Cooley as an underdog.
He's going to cover. Be like a 10-point spread.
And everyone in the building, obviously Providence, known gambling city. Everyone in the building is holding the Providence minus 10 ticket, and they're furious when Heath comes down and hits a 30-footer at the buzzer to sneak inside a number for Hoyas backers. That's the
72-64. That's my call for it. There we go.
But the game played to like 12-13.
It's high scoring.
Yep. All right. Love it, fellas. That is it. That's the Big East preview. We've got Big 10 and Big 12 still on the docket. Haven't fully decided the order. So again, we will let you know soon. Those will be coming the next 2 weeks before our big predictions episode. We're getting closer. 3.5 weeks from real games. We're excited. See you next week. Tune in then. Cheers.